assist me to close the hole in the grave of Neophyte in the heart of temple number 7 in Paris.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go
I'm
wild.
sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the web.
Number 322?
First of all, he's not the nominee. And, look, I look for...
Are you prepared to lose?
No, I'm not going to lose.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence. And so it is to the printing press, to the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, the courier of his news, that we look for strength and assistance, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
The Illuminati were a perfect storm of Freemasonic, banking, and religious interests. If you are truly interested in separating fact from fiction, what remains as fact about the Illuminati from original sources is most disturbing. By reading Robeson's Proof of a Conspiracy, the goals of the Illuminati become clear. Abolition of all monarchical government and patriotism to it. Elimination of private property and inheritance. Destruction of the traditional family, and eradication of all religion. The Illuminati were an extreme sect of Freemasonry. The effects of these institutions cannot be overemphasized. Over 5,000 years of occult history have been focused into Freemasonry and the Illuminati. Around 250 years of occult practices have flowed from them. The modern financial system was created by a family which had connections to the Illuminati. The goals of communism are identical to the goals of the Illuminati. Modern propaganda movements can be traced back to Freemasonry and the Illuminati.
Who knew? You and Dick Cheney cousins?
You know, listen, I don't think I'm going to the family reunion. I don't know how I'll be greeted. But no, you know, these folks have been doing all these genealogies on me, and right. You know, they've found all sorts of strange connections.
This has got to be what did you make of that story? For those who don't know this, so Lynn Cheney, the vice president's wife, has been doing some genealogy connected to her latest book, and lo and behold, way back, 8 generations ago,
8 generations or
you
something.
and Mr. Cheney apparently have some distant relative. What did you make of that story when it came?
You know, I actually knew about it because somebody had done some genealogy before, and they had sent it to me, this long sheet, and you know, had all these famous names, you know, Mark Twain and this and that and the other, and then Dick Cheney, and I took a pause.
George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, William Howard Taft, and President Barack Obama. One young girl traced them all back to one common ancestor.
They're all cousins and all grandsons of John Lackland.
It's the first family tree of its kind, pouring through more than 500,000 names for months. 12-year-old Bridge Ann d'Avignon discovered that all the U.S. presidents, except Martin Van Buren, are related to the former King of England, John Lackland Plantagenet, signer of the Magna Carta in 1215.
and His Royal Highness Prince Charles, who can trace his ancestry back to Romania's dark and distant past.
The genealogy shows that I'm descended from Vlad the Impaler, you see. So I do have a bit of a stake in the country.
As it were.
Vlad Dracula, otherwise known as Vlad the Impaler, thanks to his favorite method of executing people.
Dracula means son of dragon.
He is also an ancestor of the British royal family.
His father, Vlad II, was a member of a secret society known as the Order of the Dragon.
Vlad Sr. joined the knightly society known as the Order of the Dragon, and upon his induction, he was given the surname Dracul, which is a derivative of Drac, meaning dragon in ancient Romanian. However, in the modern Romanian language, this means devil. His son was given the name for son of Draco, that name being Dracula.
Sons of the Serpent.
There is an elitist group of people who definitely believe that regardless of the form and structure of your government and your country, makes no difference to these people, and they are not tied to one country, they are everywhere, and they believe that they have been given the birthright, whatever, to rule over men. A certain group of people on this earth do feel like that they have the right to rule over you. It makes no difference whether it's a monarchy, a republic, a democracy, or an outright dictatorship, or whatever. They feel like they have been given that right. And we call them the global elite. Now, there's a lot of information available about this, and I'm going to take you back to Margaret Sanger, but first I want to make a quote by Kevin Trudeau. This man is a billionaire. And this information's all over the web. And here's what he's supposed to have said. He stated that elitists he had talked to through their plans were for the greater good of humanity. They know what's best for you. But that they believed there were two classes of people on earth. Two classes, only two. The ruling elite and the worker bees. And that the elite were defined, now watch carefully, listen carefully. The elite were not defined necessarily by money or power, but by their genetic ancestry. Now we get into race, we get into the root race, we get into the issue. Their genetic ancestry. In plainer words, they inherited this.
An assorted race of monstrous giants, among other humanoid entities. Many of these giants were not only over 15 feet tall, but had red or blonde hair and beards, elongated skulls, double rows of teeth, and 6 instead of 5 digits on their hands and feet.
The elitists who feel like that they have been given this mandate because of their birth. How many of you have ever heard of Margaret Sanger? All right, how many of you have ever heard of Planned Parenthood? Margaret Sanger, in her own words, just a few of the quotes of this woman. By the way, she's the one who started Planned Parenthood. She's the founder of Planned Parenthood. Here's what she said on black people, immigrants, and indigents. Quote, human weeds, reckless breeders, spawning human beings who never should have been born. On sterilization and racial purification. Sanger believed that for the purpose of racial purification, couples should be rewarded who chose sterilization. On the right of married couples to bear children, couples should be required to submit applications to have a child, she wrote in her Plan for Peace.
While other cultures were practicing pantheism, the monotheism of the Israelites kept them unique. When the Israelites were true to their faith, they prospered. When they began to absorb the teachings and practices of the surrounding cultures, the Israelites became oppressed by the civilizations they had previously resisted. Those within Judaism who were tempted by the occult practices of the surrounding cultures became the vehicle by which secret societies continued right up to today. Practitioners of the occult within Judaism codified their beliefs in a sub-religion which became known as Kabbalah. On the surface, Kabbalism appears to be Judaism. In reality, it is the exact opposite of Judaism. The Kabbalah offers an occult counter-explanation to the revelations of the Jewish prophets and the history of the Israelites. The Kabbalah depicts Moses as an occult figure whose purpose was to initiate the Israelites back into the more enlightened and advanced teachings of Egypt. We must grasp this if we are to understand much of what is happening in Israel today. The emergence of Christianity during the height of the Roman era became a problem for the Romans. The more the Roman government tried to suppress Christianity, the more Christianity grew. Please remember that the next time somebody tries to tell you that religion is just a tool of control. Because the Roman government couldn't eliminate Christianity, it eventually decided to merge its belief system with it. The moral decline of the early church can be traced back to the time when Constantine decided to become a Christian for whatever reason. The beliefs of the Babylonians, Egyptians, Greeks, Eastern cultures, and Romans infiltrated much of Christianity as the Roman government merged with Christianity. At the heart of this infiltration was Gnosticism. Gnosticism means salvation through knowledge, while Christianity means salvation through Christ. Gnosticism has always been the primary driver of the New World Order. The Knights Templar were a tax-exempt organization and received donations from crusading pilgrims in exchange for protection to and from Jerusalem. Because its membership remained dominated by the nobility, the Knights Templar were granted many favors by European rulers. Through gifts of land and money, the Knights Templar became extremely wealthy and powerful. Pope Clement V resisted abolishment of the Knights Templar for years. Finally, after waves of public pressure, most notably from King Philip IV of France, the Pope ordered 54 Templars burned alive in Paris as punishment for conspiracy and Satan worship. The order was destroyed when the Grand Master of the Knights Templar, Jacques de Molay, was burned at the stake on March 18, 1314. Many of the Knights Templar fled to Scotland, Portugal, and to the island of Malta. Some of today's well-connected youth are still initiated into a secret society based on the Knights Templar, known as the Order of de Molay. The Rosicrucians were a religious order that combined the beliefs of ancient mystery religions with Christianity.
Initiates of a section of the mysteries of Egypt, which is called the Rosicrucian Order of Alpha Omega, assist me to close the hole in the grade of Neophyte in the heart of temple number 7 in Paris. Honored heroes, I beg you to purify this temple with a leisure banishing ritual of the pentagram.
Preachers and sororers, face with me the actual East.
It is not known whether the Rosicrucians were founded independently of the Knights Templar. At some point, these two groups merged and became one. After the Knights Templar were abolished, the the Rosicrucians became the key vehicle by which occult teachings were spread throughout Europe. This has also been the case in much of the Jesuit order as it led the Counter-Reformation. Freemasonry started when the Rosicrucians merged with the stonemason guilds of Europe. From the 1640s onwards, as the construction of grand cathedrals declined, Masons concentrated less on stonework and more on occult teachings. By 1717, the world's first Grand Lodge of Freemasonry was established in London. Freemasons were initially viewed positively by the public for doing good works, and the number of lodges grew rapidly throughout Europe. The age-old satanic desire for power also grew within Freemasonry. A secret society within a secret society, made up of only the highest levels of Freemasons, fathered a ruthless philosophy that is affecting us to this day. On May 1st, 1776, the Order of the Illuminati was born.
The Illuminati was an organization created in Bavaria. A Freemason named Adam Weishaupt created the Illuminati as an inner circle of Freemasons. And he was very definitely taken by the period of the Enlightenment. He saw liberal democracy and liberal government, not liberal in the sense that we use it today in political talk, but liberal in the sense of giving rights and freedoms to the citizen, as an important way to improve the world. And his plan was to create this inner circle of Masons called the Illuminati, that means the enlightened ones, and that this inner circle of Freemasons would then spread out among Masonic lodges, and then the Masons in turn would see to it that their members were put in prominent positions in government, and that then the Illuminati's influence would enable the liberal democratic principles of the Enlightenment to be spread throughout the world. I think they were supposedly formed in 1776, the same year of the Declaration of Independence.
And the Illuminati was established as an organization, you know. He says, no longer are we going to take the orders of the monarchs in 1776. Now that's a pretty important date, isn't it?
Now, you made reference to 1776 and the Illuminati. Can you draw a line?
I do associate the two because the language was so symbolic. It's too direct and too precise not to know that these people who envisioned such a new world were actually combined in the underground secret societies of Europe.
Fire was an important symbol to the revolutionaries, who were determined to destroy the old world in preparation for the new. As one of them declared, with a match, one does not lift up the world, one burns it. Weishaupt's Bavarian Illuminati sparked the flame of the revolutionary faith, but some researchers believe that at some point their flame was put out. It seems logical to some that Weishaupt's organization was disbanded by 1786 after it had been discovered and outlawed by the Bavarian government the year before. But others point to a letter written by George Washington on October 24, 1798, 12 years after the Illuminati had supposedly ceased to function. Writing to the Reverend G.W. Schneider, Washington acknowledged the presence of Illuminati doctrines at work in America. The Reverend Schneider had sent Washington a copy of the book, Proofs of a Conspiracy Against All the Religions and Governments of Europe, by Professor John Robeson, saying that his book gives a full account of a society of Freemasons that distinguishes itself by the name of Illuminati, whose plan is to overturn all government and all religion. When Washington responded, he said, "It was not my intention to doubt that the doctrines of the Illuminati and the principles of Jacobinism had not spread in the United States. On the contrary, no one is more truly satisfied of this fact than I am." We asked Dr. Morris to comment on the letter, but he told us he was unaware of it. The letter itself may be found among the George Washington papers at the Library of Congress.
Astrologer Joan Quigley was hired to read charts for one of the most powerful couples on Earth, and some people believed she changed history. It was Nancy Reagan who sought out Joan Quigley's advice after her husband was elected in 1980. Joan Quigley used astrology for every important event of Reagan's administration. One critical moment came up just after the defeat of Robert Burke as a Supreme Court justice. Hoping for a better fate, the timing of the next nominee was entrusted to the stars.
I did a chart for Anthony Kennedy to nominate him as a justice for the Supreme Court. It was an almost impossible day to find a really good time.
Joan Quigley interpreted the symbols on this zodiac chart to plot the perfect time when the planets would favor the new candidate.
It had to be so exact to the second, and someone was sitting in the audience with a stopwatch and gave a signal for the president to announce that he was nominating Anthony Kennedy for the Supreme Court.
That I am today announcing my intention to nominate United States Circuit Judge Anthony Kennedy to be an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court.
One thing is certain, however. The leader of the free world ran his life and the country by consulting the stars. The careful guidance and timings of a White House astrologer. It wasn't the first time a world leader had consulted the stars.
The monarchies of Europe, led by the British royal family, had been involved in the occult for centuries through the sponsorship of clairvoyance. The British royal family is deeply Masonic. The Queen's cousin, the Duke of Kent, is British Freemasonry's Grand Master. There is even a Freemasonic lodge in Buckingham Palace. Though the current Queen says that she is not amused at this, she and her predecessors were often Masonic. Columbus did not discover anything. The Vikings arrived in North America 500 years before Columbus did. Manly P. Hall, the most prolific Masonic author of all time, wrote a compact book in 1944 entitled The Secret Destiny of America. It confirms that the Old World knew about the New World for thousands of years. Columbus sailed to the West because his family and those who paid for his expedition were steeped in Rosicrucianism and wished to lay the foundation of a new world order. One only has to look at the cipher used in his signature for proof of this claim. Much of the occult knowledge of the Knights Templar is carved in stone in Scotland's Rosslyn Chapel. The carvings that line the inner frame above this window are of maize or of Indian corn that grew only in the New World. How could this be if the construction of the Rosslyn Chapel began in 1446 or 46 years before Columbus sailed to the West? For the answer to this question, we should look at the sails on the ships used by Columbus. They were adorned with the logo of the Knights Templar. From before the time of Columbus until today, America has always had a special place in the plans of the New World Order. The Illuminati in Europe saw the rare positive outcome of the American Revolution and sought to subvert it through the Columbian Lodge of the Order of the Illuminati, established in New York in 1785. Agents of the Illuminati worked to start a new revolution in America so that America would resemble France without the Napoleonic influence.
The limits of debate in this country are established before the debate even begins, and everyone else is marginalized. They're made to seem either to be communists or was some sort of disloyal person, a kook, there's a word, and now it's conspiracy. Say they've made that something that should not be even entertained for a minute, that powerful people might get together and have a plan. Doesn't happen. You're a kook. You're a conspiracy buff.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order. Out of these troubled times, our fifth objective, a new world order can emerge.
After 1989, President Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order, and instead it looks like we got a lot of disorder.
There is a chance for the President of the United States to use this disaster to carry out what his father, a phrase his father used, I think, only once, and hasn't been used since, and that is a new world order.
This was a stirring address, in my view, shorter than his father's speech when he announced the New World Order.
And it's only now that we can begin to understand that the world order that globalization brings and what it's going to look like, it's driven forward now not just by the balance of military strength, the Cold War times, or ordinary political power. It's being driven forward by a seismic shift in economic power that we see around us.
We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
Thousands of people gathered to hear Barack Obama deliver key foreign policy speech on his current European tour. The Democratic presidential hopeful laid out his vision for America's place in a new world order, saying he was speaking as a proud citizen of the United States and a fellow citizen of the world.
Can you believe what you have been seeing on CNN today, ladies and gentlemen? Can you believe it? Supposedly, a CNN reporter found Osama bin Laden, took a television camera crew with him, went into Osama bin Laden's hideout, interviewed him and his top leadership, his top lieutenants and colonels and generals in their hideout. This is a CNN reporter with a camera crew. And he came out and told everybody, within 3 weeks, Osama bin Laden is going to attack the United States and Israel. Now, don't you think that's kind of strange, folks? You see, because the largest intelligence apparatus in the world, with the biggest budget in the history of the world, has been looking for Osama bin Laden for years and years and years, and can't find him. A reporter from CNN and his little camera crew got in to Osama bin Laden's secret hideout and conducted an interview. If you don't believe me, tune into CNN. They're probably running it right now as I'm speaking. And if you believe it, you are one of the stupidest jerks that ever lived on the face of this earth. And whatever is going to happen that they're going to blame on Osama bin Laden, don't you even believe it. When in hell are all you people going to wake up?
An examination of the building's steel beams and columns could have shown whether explosives had been used to slice them, but virtually all of the steel was removed before it could be properly investigated, then put on ships to Asia to be melted down.
It's important for us to not reveal how we collect information. That's what the enemy wants.
Certainly for my last 8-9 months in Vietnam, I ceased to think. I quite literally ceased to think about why I was there or what I was doing. The sole purpose for my being in Vietnam at that point was to stay alive until I could get out. And the reason for that is that, you know, the kinds of questions that began to present themselves were just, the questions themselves were ugly. And I didn't want to know the answers. It's like banging on a door. You knock on a door, and the door opens slightly, and behind that door it's dark, and there's loud noises coming, like there's wild animals in there or something. And you peer into the darkness, and you can't see what's there, but you can hear all this ugly stuff. You want to step into that room? No way. You just sort of back out quietly, pull the door shut behind you, and walk away from it. And that's what was going on. The questions themselves were too ugly to even ask, let alone try to deal with the answers. Now, part of what was going on is that I could not have made sense of what I was seeing and doing in Vietnam because I did not have a full deck of cards. I needed to have an understanding of the political and historical realities that brought us to Vietnam before I could make sense of what I was seeing. I began to acquire the other cards in the deck during the 3 years or so after I got back from Vietnam, but while I was there, nothing made sense because I kept trying to, you know, play this game with 27 cards instead of 52 cards, and it kept not coming out right. And I didn't know why. All I knew was that it was nuts.
I am a happy member of the Bohemian Grove. I like the folks who come there, and it's really inappropriate for me to talk about the group beyond that. Thank you.
Have you been there for the ceremony with the cremation of care?
Frankly, I don't think that's something I need to talk to you about. This is what's called ambush journalism, and I disrespect you for that as well. So thank you and goodbye.
Been in the ritual?
It's none of your damn business.
Every year in mid-July, a few hundred men gathered together for a celebration on a 2,700-acre private campground in Monte Rio, California. Some call it a cult meeting, but not just any cult meeting. This is a gathering of the world's most elite and powerful men, including senior media executives, prominent CEOs, and even retired presidents. This is the Bohemian Grove. The Bohemian Club, formed in 1872, started out as a San Francisco-based men's art club, with bohemianism being the practice of an unconventional lifestyle. While the club started out as a group of artists and musicians, it was gradually overrun by more prominent individuals, and eventually became a group of the world's most powerful figures. Today, the club has around 3,200 members, dead and alive, notably Bill Clinton, the Bush family, and Herbert Hoover, who once referred to it as the greatest party on earth. The club motto is "Weaving spiders come not here," implying that business concerns and networking are to be left outside, but the truth in this slogan is greatly debated. The Grove is famous for a 1942 meeting during which the planning for the Manhattan Project took place. J. Robert Oppenheimer, nuclear scientist Ernest Lawrence, and various military officials gathered together at the Grove for a meeting that led to the creation and eventual use of the atomic bomb. Grove members take pride in this historic event and often retell the story to new attendees.